Good morning. Well, I'm very happy you're all here, and we've been planning this for a while. It's very exciting. This is happening. So I was a little bit nervous this morning. In my job, I do public speaking once in a while. But today it feels like I'm called by the principal office. And the worst yet, I'm not only going to talk to one principal, but many. So hopefully you're not too tough on me today. Before we start, maybe you have a question as well, that why did Huawei Enterprise choose Texas ISD to be the center of the world for our K-12 education initiatives? So as my friends in Texas tell me, Texas is the center of the world, and that's why. Jokes set aside, in the past couple of quarters, since we started to work with the state and the ISDs in the state, I've met so many passionate educators. This is, we think we absolutely made the right choice, and we've learned so much through the process. I thought with technology the slides come up itself, but okay, here we go. So I have 4 things I want to share with you today. First of all, I want to perhaps speak a little bit more our learning from reimagining ISD technology. John, I think, gave a great speech on a lot of in-depth details. So it will just be from slight different angle from us. Then I'm going to talk about the technology itself from Huawei's view and from our work with the folks in the district. Look at how IT transformation to ICT going to impact education and technology in education in Texas. I will introduce a little bit more about Huawei for those of you perhaps not as familiar with us. And the last but not least, I want to talk about some of our initiatives in addition to this one we're having today. So the good thing about being a genius is you can usually solve the world's problem with a theory or with a formula. And so I went to a university which had a lot of nerds. I remember in those days we were talking about using Einstein's theory of relativity, explain why if you have a good day, why time flies so fast. But coming back to what we want to talk about today, perhaps many of you notice it's not just the education, but overall the global IT market is somewhat chaotic today. The key reason, or one of the key reasons for the chaos is the tsunami of mobile clients. You probably have seen growth, and John talked about some statistics of the growth of BYOD in schools, in businesses, and in our lives. And that's driving a lot of the changes in IT infrastructure and IT technologies. So how many of you read the Mary Meeker's Internet Report? Oh, I get to be the one talk about it then. So Mary Meeker is a very well-known VC, and she publishes internet report every year. One of the report she published for a couple of quarters ago, she talked about reimagining, meaning reimagining how internet and mobile devices have transformed a lot of the industries. And she also talked about some of the way we learn. This is an example. Of course, I'm preaching to the choir here. You're very familiar how we went from the traditional learning to a lot of the new learning tools. Actually, this afternoon, Scott McNeely is going to talk about one of his initiative in education, which is Curriki. It's a nonprofit organization. The other example she gave is how the technology and the internet have enhanced our learning by enabling more interactivity, as shown in these pictures. And the of course, 2-year-old can use the iPad a lot better than I do, probably. I don't have the slide here, but I was reading her latest report also talked about if you ask the kids today, what are some of the top learning tools, the answers perhaps, when they want to study something, the answers perhaps a lot different from what I would say. Actually, last week, one of the mornings, my daughter, Tom, introduced the 8th grader, 13-year-old, came up to my bathroom and she said, Mommy, where did you learn to do your makeup? I thought that's an interesting question. I said, oh, I read a book one time. I asked a friend. And then I said, how did you learn how to do makeup? She said, oh, YouTube. So K-12 education is changing fast, and it's driving a lot of reimagination what it will be, and how do we use internet and the mobility and technology to really empower the kids to learn what they want to learn, and to learn much faster. And here are a lot more detailed examples how this transformation is happening. So from IT point of view, all these transformation in education is driving tremendous amount of changes. And of course, a lot of you in this room are technologists yourself or managing technologists. And the number one priority probably that has changed for you is how do you manage all these wireless devices, from smartphone to tablets, etc., Wi-Fi. Then the other thing you will notice is your data center strategy is changing really fast. So a lot of you are certainly leveraging the content on the public cloud, Google Docs, Amazon, talked about Curriki and others. But meanwhile, you also still have a lot of specific contents that's growing really fast, and that need to be in the cloud, either sitting on your premise or amongst multiple ISDs to be shared. So I believe Lisa this afternoon will share with everybody some of her vision there. So that's the second aspect as a technologist that you really need to consider. Well, Texas is one of the things about Texas I noticed pretty quickly is you have a lot of toll roads. So I figured I'll use this as an example to illustrate what I was talking about. So how do you, while your budget perhaps remains the same or even shrinking, then how do you enable all these clouds so you can maximize education for your district? From public cloud we talked about, which of course from pricing point of view, depend on what it is, could be more affordable to your own dedicated private cloud, which is usually the most expensive, not only from cost point of view, but also resource point of view, to a private ISD shared cloud. How do you strategize and allocate and plan for these? And hopefully today's sessions will give you some new thinking and some new ways to look at these. And also after today's session, hopefully we can form an interest group to work on these issues continuously. So from IT vendor point of view, it's driving a lot of different activities. Of course, there have been a lot of efforts in developing technologies that are suitable for public cloud, OpenFlow, OpenStack. You're probably fairly familiar with these. And traditional IT suppliers, on the other hand, are struggling because this new mobility and the cloud trend requires very different thinking, very different product strategy, but yet they have to hold on to the traditional product margin and product strategy and the traditional platforms. And that's really why you might have known Huawei from the carrier's world, and Huawei entered the enterprise a couple of years ago. And a part of the reason for that is we see the transformation of IT coming in and feel we are in the right place and right time to make a difference. And specifically for education in ISD, the private cloud is an area we feel we can make quite a big contribution. So you can have enterprise-ready product that is cost competitive and that's also forward-looking. So to summarize, your traditional IT building block include certainly storage and servers and networking. But in the new world, you actually need a whole set of new communication building blocks, which will include consideration of your cell network, your Wi-Fi network. Some of you have actually dark fiber, your own optical fiber network, and we talked about cell phones, smartphone, tablets, video surveillance, video conferencing. So there's a new word for this, and it's called ICT. Anybody heard about that term? Oh, another first time, from Mary Meeker to ICT. So ICT stands for Information Communication Technology. So in general, the transformation we've talked about can be summarized by the transformation from IT to ICT. Well, BYOD didn't just happen overnight, and a lot of these trends didn't happen overnight. And why has it been so difficult for you to implement these? And I want to show you some statistics. Perhaps it can shed some light. Because two of the industries that are most relevant to to you folks, IT industry and the textbook industries. If you look at some of the public companies who are big players in this industry, this is their financial performance data. Fairly high margin, huh? But if you look at some of the other industries that have been globalized, that are mature, this is their financial performance data. So I would argue part of the difficulty for the traditional player is how do you transform your business model? Or perhaps I should say it's very difficult for a company to be willing to transform their business model to take a lower margin. But for education, when the tax dollar is shrinking, what you really need is something a lot more affordable that can drive a lot more mobility and a lot more content. So we think IT industry is at that inflection point because this has happened to many other industries. When you have players that are not subject to global competition, then they become a little bit static. Airline industry have experienced the same thing, took a lot of years of global competition. Today, of course, a lot of us can afford to fly now, which is very good. So there's auto industry went through the same transformation, and there's the cell phone industry also went through the same transformation. So every time the transformation is usually brought by a new party, because, as we mentioned, it's very difficult for the incumbent to make such transformation. The autos, all of us familiar with Toyota, talked about air travel for cell phone. Of course, Samsung has brought a lot of the changes to make cell phone a lot more affordable. And for ICT, this is what we think, that there will be a transformation, and Huawei would like to be part of it to make compute more flexible and more affordable. And some of the other trend in the inflection points are big data that we haven't talked about, but we think there will be a lot of potential for big data for education, so we can better digest how kids want to learn and how we help them to learn better. So I want to talk a little bit about Huawei. How many of you are familiar with Huawei? Oh, now I see some hands. I did better than Mary Meek and ICT on this one. Of course, all of us know about HP, which was founded in a garage in 1938, and I live in Silicon Valley, which is the birthplace of many HPs. 1979, there was a significant event happening in China. China established the first special economic zone called the Shenzhen. So in the late 1980s, Huawei was born in Shenzhen. Now, I was a young girl then. What I remember, many of you remember before late 1970s, China was a country that's very enclosed and have very limited interactions to the outside world. So things have drastically changed since late 1970s. As a young girl, the thing I remember most about is finally we can wear a mini skirt. And for the young boys, probably the ability to drink Coca-Cola finally was amazing. So a lot of these young girls and young boys joined Huawei in the late 1980s and early 1990s because Huawei was one of the very first technology companies in China. And this is Huawei today. When Huawei was established, Mr. Ren, he actually was already in his early 40s. I think he had $2,000 put in the company in 1988. So today, Huawei is 150,000 employees, products deployed in over 140 countries, serving more than 1/3 of the world's population. Pretty amazing growth. It's amazing what a mini skirt and Coca-Cola can do for you. So Huawei actually, our business, Huawei Enterprise, is a bit younger. We've only been in US for a couple of years, but Huawei has been in US for a long time. Actually, just over 10 years, had a 10 years anniversary, I think last year. Headquartered actually in Plano, Texas. Probably that's why some of you are familiar with Huawei. And we have, in addition to Plano, we have R&D center in Santa Clara and a couple of other places. Just like the other companies I mentioned that have transformed other industries into global industries. They have design center in US, and so do we. Overall R&D spending for Huawei is $4.7 billion, 70,000 R&D employees, a lot of Coca-Colas consumed, 15 R&D centers. A lot of patents, of course, as a result. So, very amazing growth for Huawei in the past few years and continue to do so. Right now it's at $40 billion in revenue. So here are some other statistics. Mostly because it is relevant to the ICT transformation we are talking about. Number one in telco infrastructure, number two in video conferencing, number two in carrier switches and routers, and number three in smartphones. And here's another chart, look at the ICT portfolio. So I think we have a very good foundation to work with a lot of you folks to look at how we can help you to bring more technology to the kids, to your district. But meanwhile, we realize we're a younger business in US and in Texas, in the ISD. So we very much would appreciate the learning, and together I think we can make our technology truly useful for every one of you. On the right side, you see a Huawei phone, which is a little bigger for me. That's my understanding is the largest screen smartphone existing today. There's a new term for these called the phablets. I thought that stands for fabulous tablets. Apparently, it stands for phone plus tablets. Huawei also have announced a couple of months ago and fairly popular in some of the countries, the thin smartphone P6. It's the world's thinnest smartphone. carrying our tradition in networking technology. We've announced in 2013 a new class of campus core switch that hopefully will also help some of the private ISD cloud initiatives we're talking about here. This is more for the carrier network, 400 gigabit core network that was also announced August this year. So in addition to the networking portfolio, Huawei had a long R&D history in various wireless technologies. I know these are too small to read, but we are very much a leader in many of the wireless technology categories. A lot of you probably also know we are #1 in optical networking as well. So here's another example of Huawei's leadership position in wireless technology, radio access network. Share growth was very high in the past couple of years. So we have a very creative marketing crew. So 4G network. This slide is interesting. Of course, we have very wide deployment for our LTE technology in the carrier network, but leveraging that, we have made a new system called the ELTE, stands for, well, supposed to stands for Enterprise LTE. I think it can stand for Education LTE as well. It's showcased a lot right outside. Hopefully you can take a look. When we talk about universal access for the schools, that can play an important role leveraging some of the education spectrum you have. And we look forward to some of these dialogues because I think this technology can enable a lot of disadvantaged kids to have access to the internet anywhere they go. And here's another analyst report by Infonetics on their scorecard for Huawei based on few categories they created from market share to financial stability, etc. So to summarize, we think what we're doing here is no different than what some of the other global companies have done for other industries, is to help create a new dynamic for this industry to make it better, faster, and cheaper for everybody who can benefit from these technologies. So lastly, I want to introduce to you some of the technology initiatives that's in the works, and I want to make sure give credit to the partners who have worked with us to create these. HVE we have consulted heavily about how to serve you guys' needs better, and a lot of the school districts, especially DCS, Lisa, have also given us very good advice on what our needs are. But this is our first effort, and we very much look forward to your additional input to make these initiatives useful for you. Our overall vision is to reimagine ICT into better K-12 education. Our mission is to form a community of ISD ICT professionals working together to build the classrooms of the 21st century. And I don't know whether all of you have got the architectural guide we've put together, but there are some other online tools you can check out afterwards. We have established a website, a YouTube channel. We're planning some education tools for us adults as well. And I'm going to share with you some of the initial survey results from the ISD CTO survey. We not only have the summit this summer, we have organized some webinars, and there's a lot of opportunity for globalized education. I came from China myself. I wish there were more global education opportunities, so I didn't land in this country feeling like strangers. So there's, and vice versa in today's world, a lot of kids here probably want to learn more about the world as well. So that's another dimension we can add to this. And the community is growing, even though we are just starting this. We are very excited to work with all of you to continue to grow this dialogue. So again, I think if you haven't received it, you receive this later on today. This is our version 1 ICT architecture guide for Texas ISD. So what you see different for what we're doing here is the traditional book you get are more written from vendor's point of view. So sometimes the language is hard to understand. But this guide, we wanted to write it from your point of view, and not only your point of view, from your colleagues' language too. So hopefully help you to explain to your board and to teachers a lot easier what are these technologies and why they are important and what they can do for you. The other thing we want is for you to participate in this heavily so we can make this version 2 a lot better. So as I mentioned, we've done initial set of survey, and a lot of folks have participated in the survey, and I'm going to show you some of the results here. If you want, we can send you, Frank can probably send you the full results later. And as you can see, most of the folks answered the survey are very relevant to our discussion today. They're either technology directors or assistant technology directors, or superintendents, or assistant superintendents. So I guess we're speaking the ISD language here, or Texas ISD language here. What this means is the participating ISDs vary in sizes, so we get a fairly good sample set here. And it's interesting, my ISD views technology as one of the most important investments we made in our ISD. Overwhelming amount of respondents agreed with that one at 84%. Everybody thought the survey is helpful. Most of them want a copy. lot of details. Frank, are you going to share it in your session?
Yeah, we're going to talk about it during our panel discussion.
Okay, great. So you'll hear more about that this afternoon. Now, I feel I can't leave the stage without talking about this. What is really technology's role in education? And I thought long and hard about this last night. I have a 2 graduate degree, so I spent a little bit longer time in school than usual. So education is very important to me personally as well. And when we work with the school districts, we hear a lot of controversies or some challenges from teachers in understanding that what the technology evolution means for them, for the kids, and there's some concerns from parents. It's a very big topic, so it's somewhat controversial. And here's my view. So when I think about my almost 20 years in school, there's one thing I always think about first, is one afternoon I was stopped. I just started high school. I was stopped on the hallway by my physics teacher. So I was pretty good at most of the other subjects, but my physics test a little bit volatile, so I thought, wow, this is bad. So he said, how are you doing? Li Ye, that's my Chinese name. I said, I'm doing okay. He said, how are things going with your physics class? I said, well, some subjects seem to be more difficult than the others. And he said, yeah, I noticed that your physics test scores, fluctuates a bit as well. I said, I'm very sorry about that. I'm going to try harder. And he said something I never forgot all my life. He said, Li Ye, it is my observation that you can do a lot better. I'm pretty confident, if you're confident about yourself, that you do wonderful, and you might even be top of the class for physics. And I don't think, Chinese are typically reserved, and I don't think any other teacher ever said that to me. So today, a lot of people tell me that I seem to be a fairly confident person, but I wasn't that way always till that day. And what he told me really helped me all my life. And it really helped me to become a much better person and much more self-confident overall, amazingly. So later on, he became the principal for our middle and high school, which was #1 in the city. And so when I think about education, I don't think about all the A's I got, all the A pluses I got, et cetera, et cetera. I think about that afternoon and that conversation. And to me, I think that's the real role of a teacher. That is not just to give the kids knowledge, but to help us, parents, to shape kids' mind. And amazingly, many years later, I went to the student-teacher conference for my daughter. So I met her science teacher, and she was telling me, she said, Eleanor Science School fluctuates. And, but she got a 98 and 100. For the last 2 times. I said, I know, but I couldn't figure out how to help her to get 100 all the times. And she said, Miss Carroll said, there's something you need to remember, that once they got 100, then that means they have the ability to get 100, and she can, if she wants to, always get a 98 and 100. So I went back to my daughter and told her the story, and she's very moved. And her science scores, I think, average 95 and above since then. And I think that's the real value of teacher is, again, to encourage the kids and to help parents to shape our youngsters' mind to be a better person. Therefore, the role of technology is not to replace that, but to empower our teachers to do more of what's really important for education rather than just repeat the knowledge and the coursework that internet can do. So thank you very much.